Back here on hashtag AskGSM for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022, episode 453. My name is Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. Coming off an electric SummerSlam weekend in Nashville, being there in attendance for the show itself on Saturday, all the media stuff. Had a great time. All that footage will be uploaded soon enough as far as the chats with Dwight Howard and Paul Heyman, who I spoke to for over 20 minutes on Friday, all about the tryout and just a lot of other things. Heyman is just an absolute genius. The article is up now on Bleacher Report, so check it out as far as the deep dive on the current WWE program, as far as scouting for talent and all this other sort of stuff. An on-site report from the tryout last Thursday in Nashville, which was fascinating to say the least. So check that out when you get a chance. As well as all my other interviews lately with Kurt Angle, like I said, Paul Heyman dropping soon, Logan Paul dropping here on the channel in audio form and in article form over on dailyddt.com. But enough about my stuff. We're going to be answering your questions here on the show today. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights. Forgot last night, but usually up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. Last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Micah Does It from YouTube's got a couple of questions here. First one being, what do you think of Tamina joining the Bloodline also? Absolutely no desire. Absolutely no desire. Tamina is just not good. I think it's well documented here on this show and in other reviews and stuff that I've done on other platforms. I am not a Tamina fan. She seems like a lovely person, but she's just not good. The Bloodline does not need her. I know she has history with the Usos and the family heritage and whatever. I would much rather see Naomi join the group. I feel like that would make much more sense. And we also haven't seen Naomi as a heel in a very long time. She is over as a face. And bringing her back as, Sasha Banks' partner or whatever makes sense, if that it does indeed happen, which I hope it does at some point in the near future. I honestly think it would be more refreshing than having Sasha turn on Naomi. It would be Naomi turning on Sasha. Sasha's an amazing heel. I want to see her back as a heel at some point. But Naomi turning heel on Sasha and joining the Bloodline, I think would be pretty cool. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of spin that and go from there and stuff like that. So I would be all on board with the Naomi heel turn over a Naomi, in the Bloodline sort of thing. Micah Does It. Second question. Should T-Bar align himself with Edge and go back to his old name, Dijak, and feud at the Judgment Day? What do you think of that idea? It seems very random, but I will say this, and I don't know if I mentioned this last week, I do want to see T-Bar back to being Dominik Dijakovic. Just Dijak would be cool. I know he was Donovan Dijak in Ring of Honor. He was Chris Dijak on the Indies, or just Dijak in certain promotions. I don't think they would give him his original, like his actual name, although it sounds fucking cool as it is. I mean, they just changed Io Shirai's name to Io Sky, and that's a cool name and all, but they're doing that because they don't own the rights to Io Shirai, and that's how they market her and all this other sort of stuff. At the very least, they could just give him back Dominik Dijakovic. I know they don't want two Dominics on the roster, but maybe that's a different, maybe that was a Vince McMahon thing, not having two people of the same name on the same show or on the same roster. It's such a silly fucking mindset, but that sounds like a Vinceism. And with Vince gone, that might no longer be the case. So maybe they can bring him back as Dominik Dijakovic or just Dijakovic. Dominik Dijakovic is kind of a mouthful as it is. But just as Dijakovic, I think that'd be pretty fucking cool. And I hope that happens. Triple H was high on him in NXT, never won any gold, but, he was pretty prominently featured for as long as he was there and had some amazing matches with Keith Lee. So I would be honestly surprised if he just kept him as T-Bar and relegated him to main event for the rest of his days in WWE. Hopefully that does not happen. His second question, do you think Triple H should make Ricochet and Shelton Benjamin a tag team since the tag team division isn't much in WWE? I guess. Shelton we haven't seen in a while. I would like to see him back. He's coming off another tag team with Cedric, Ricochet also teamed with Cedric for a time in 2020. So just putting the two together because they clearly don't know what else to do with them. I guess Ricochet's on SmackDown, Cedric's on Raw. You could put one of them on the other brand, preferably Shelton on SmackDown. They do need more tag teams. I don't know if that would solve anything, but I guess it's an idea. Their next question, do you think with Triple H in charge of WWE Creative, do you believe he may bury Cody Rhodes when he comes back for taking the sledgehammer, I guess you meant to say, to the throne in AEW? Absolutely not. I think if you asked me that a year ago, I would probably say yeah. But hearing Cody speak so highly of Triple H, and I'm not sure if Triple H has commented on Cody since Cody came back to the company, but it seems like they have a good relationship, and Cody was saying, I did it out of respect and all this other sort of shit. He clearly idolizes Triple H. I mean, that was pretty evident for a long time on his indie run and in AEW, Ring of Honor, and all this other sort of stuff, like trying to emulate Triple H and Stephanie with himself and his wife, Brandy. That was pretty obvious. The taking of the shots thing was pretty fucking dumb. But he's saying now that he did it out of respect. So I don't know if he's just saying that because he's his boss now, that Triple H is his boss, or because he genuinely means it. I take it as it's the latter, and he genuinely does mean it based off how he speaks about Triple H. But no, to answer your question, I think Cody Rhodes was just fine. I mean, he did that whole Hell in the Cell main event injured to kind of win over Vince because he knew Vince would like it, and he did. I'm sure Vince thought he was like the fucking man after that. And Vince probably would have put the belt on him right away when Cody came back. And Cody hopefully still will be champion. Triple H is not a dumb guy. If he does not push Cody upon his return, then Triple H is out of touch as out of touch as his father-in-law is. So hopefully that's not the case. Do you think WWE should bring back the Cruiserweight division now that Triple H is back in charge? No. They did it. They tried. They only just got rid of it a few months ago. 205 Live towards the end was a fucking disaster. Would they have done it better had they started it and kept it under Triple H 6 years ago? Yeah, probably. They've already done it twice now. I feel like they have it. They don't even have the same amount of cruiserweights they did a few years ago. I mean, they hired a lot of cruiserweights coming out of the CWC. They put them in NXT, on 205 Live, on the main roster, and a lot of them are now gone. So they're either in AEW or other companies. I don't know enough cruiserweights across all the rosters to really make a division out of it. Just make the most of what we have right now with Raw and SmackDown. Make those shows better. Maybe in a year or two I would feel differently. But just the term Cruiserweight division has such a stench on it right now, coming off the failure that was 205 Live towards the end, and the joke of a championship that was towards the end in NXT. I think bringing that back anytime soon would be a mistake. So maybe at some point down the road, but anytime soon, I don't think so. And his last question, honestly, I think Logan Paul versus The Miz at SummerSlam was the best match on the card. What do you think? Logan Paul can go, and I feel like I could see him being tag champion. He might be more than that. Logan Paul could be fucking United States champion if he keeps on the killer performances. The only issue with that is that, they have a part-timer champion now in Roman Reigns, and at one point Brock Lesnar a few years ago. Not even a few years ago, fucking earlier this year, we had two, Roman was a more full-time earlier this year than he is now, but still, they could do it. Logan Paul has been very impressive so far between his WrestleMania in-ring debut and then again at SummerSlam one-on-one with The Miz. I very much agree. The guy's kind of won me over as a performer, and like I said, cheap plug, check out my chat with him from earlier in the week. It was from Friday, but I put it up on Monday. Very insightful conversation ahead of his match with The Miz at SummerSlam. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed the match. I thought he did a great job. Miz was the perfect opponent for him. And I could certainly see him holding gold at some point in the future. If he becomes more full-time, which I don't foresee that happening, I do think it's smart to keep him an attraction and not having him, wrestle on Raw every single week. But at some point, for a brief run, just to make some mainstream headlines and whatever, Logan Paul's a champion in WWE, whether it be the tag titles, mid-card championship, I don't know about the world title, but, maybe we'll see. I don't want to jump the gun. It's certainly a possibility. No L from YouTube as well. Do you see Control, Bayley's new group, running Raw for a couple of months? I do, and they should. I don't think Triple H is a dumb guy, obviously, based off his time in creative in NXT. He's pushed them, I say, heavily so far. They've only been on two shows, SummerSlam and Raw. But still, just based on the talent included in the group and how they were presented on Monday's Raw, I would be shocked if he pulled the plug on them anytime soon. Like Judgment Day is fucking dead in the water at this point. They could be rehabbed. It's going to take a lot for me to care about them at this point. They've just suffered so many losses, and it's so clear Edge is winning that feud, and that's fine, I guess, but the group just means nothing. As soon as they took Edge out of the group, they were dead in the water. I just knew they were not going to push Finn as a meaningful singles heel, and they didn't, and they won't. Face heel, whatever, maybe Triple H will, but I feel like the damage has been done, and maybe Triple H can right that ship, can correct that ship's course or whatever. I don't foresee that happening, honestly, but, time will tell. But anyway, with Bayley's new group, I think this should culminate, as other people have said, in a War Games match later this year at Survivor Series. That would be fucking cool. And it's really not that far-fetched because Survivor Series is only in a couple of months from now, in November. So it is possible. It definitely could happen. And I hope it does. Because Bayley's new group versus the trio of Bianca, Asuka, and a returning Becky Lynch would be fantastic. And their second question, who should challenge Liv Morgan for the next, who should challenge Liv Morgan next for the SmackDown Women's Championship? I expect it to be Ronda Rousey again. And it's, another rematch between these two. I mean, it makes sense. Ronda Rousey turned heel to pay-per-view. Liv's going to want revenge. Ronda feels, and rightfully so, she got screwed. I mean, Liv did, I didn't see this when the match happened, but she did tap out, even though Liv pinned her clean when Ronda wasn't really paying attention. Liv tapped out when the referee wasn't looking. So Ronda does have a right to a rematch. I don't want Ronda Rousey winning the championship back at this point. I don't know how you can do another match and have Liv Morgan win clean. I mean, Liv beating Ronda Rousey clean, even at this point, is still a bit unbelievable for me, personally. But still, I expect another match, and hopefully the feud heats up now that Ronda Rousey's a heel. So I thought the match was exactly what it needed to be, and I don't really think you need to put anyone else in that championship. I mean, maybe you could bring back Charlotte on Friday, and you do a triple threat, and that's how you work around Ronda losing again. You can have Charlotte get pinned. I mean, Liv should not lose anytime soon. It's either Charlotte or Ronda or both. Ronda is currently suspended in storyline, so maybe Charlotte does come back on Friday, and then Ronda, I heard, is going to be back before Clash at the Castle. So that could be where they do the triple threat. And then from there, I don't know, blow it off at the next pay-per-view with Ronda losing to Liv. I don't want Ronda losing that much, but the bottom line is that Liv should remain SmackDown Women's Champion. She really should not be losing that thing anytime soon. She's way too over for that reign to be over anytime soon. Kyle Rochelle 19 from Twitter. He asks, it sucks that Becky got hurt, but it's nice to see Bayley back and now Io Sky and Dakota Kai on the main roster. When Becky came back when she went to SmackDown last year. Now Bayley is back, but on Raw. Is the SmackDown Women's Division in trouble, or will Sasha and Naomi come back? I don't know about in trouble. I mean, the Raw Women's Division now far exceeds SmackDown's. I mean, the addition of Bayley, Rhea being back, first of all, Rhea being back, Bianca being champion, and the addition of, and when Becky comes back as a babyface as well, the addition of Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai is massive. I would like to see SmackDown get like Candice and Johnny Gargano, and they have the draft coming up at some point. I mean, I would move it until after WrestleMania. I don't know if they can hold off on doing a draft for 6 months, but there's been really no roster rules for a long time now, so who gives a fuck at this point, honestly. Maybe Triple H will make us care, who knows. But anyway, the SmackDown Women's Division definitely needs more names, and they have a lot of talent on that show. They just need to use them properly. Shotzi, I doubt, is ever getting beyond a certain level, even with Triple H in charge. Hopefully he could do more with Shayna Baszler, who has been a complete afterthought for a very long time now. Lacey Evans, I like what she's doing. The Aaliyah stuff I don't give a fuck about, but, you know, she's building momentum as a heel, so there's that. It's grown on me. I didn't love it initially, but it's grown on me. Xia Li's been completely wasted. Maybe they could turn her around. Liv's very over right now. Obviously, Charlotte's on her way back at some point. You have Ronda Rousey there as well, so Sonya on SmackDown. So they definitely have the building blocks. It's not completely depleted. I mean, the SmackDown Women's Division about a year ago, in the summer of 2021, was completely fucking depleted. They literally had like 5 or 6 women. Like, that's not even an exaggeration. And some of them were out hurt. So they definitely have the women. They need to use them properly. And maybe another fresh face or two could really go a long way. I forgot about Raquel Rodriguez as well. She's another name they can build up in the next couple of months. But it's not doomed, but I do think a returning Sasha and Naomi being back on SmackDown would really help that SmackDown Women's Division on the babyface side. Noob_N_Co 1991, their first question was, what feuds do you look forward to and which feuds do you believe will flop in this new era of WWE? I would like to see Bianca pick up where her and Bayley left off last year, but I believe that the feud between Asuka and Io Sky will get ruined by fan overhype. I mean, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to be negative right out of the bat. It could be a great feud. It could be a bad feud. Who the fuck knows? But Bianca and Bayley picking up where they left off from last year. I don't want to see a whole another series between the two. I mean, we've already seen so many matches between them in the last year and a half. I know Bayley's been gone for a year. I don't need to see another 5 matches between them. You know, Bianca facing Dakota Kai and Io, though, based off what we saw on Monday's Raw, that has my attention. Becky working with Bayley is also very interesting because that's a feud we've also never seen before either. So that's something I would be very excited to see at some point. I mean, those are with the women. I just want to see fresh feuds. Just don't rerun the same shit into the ground. They've been doing a lot of the same stuff for a while now. You know, move away from Brock and Roman, please. When you call it the last time ever, please live up to that stipulation and make it the final ever match between the two. I mean, that match was so great, I'm not sure how they could top it anyway. Just leave it at that and move on, you know. Roman and Drew we've seen before, but, that just makes sense to do. I just want to see fresh feuds, and we got some fresh matches in the last, even on Raw, between Bianca and Io, and we had Styles and Ciampa, who had a match already on Raw a few weeks or months ago, but, what we got on Monday was really good, and a few other matches as well, so just keep up the freshness. I don't really have any dream feuds necessarily right now, but at the moment, I think those are a few I'm looking forward to, the ones that you mentioned. At Iwagu91, their question was, your thoughts on Ring of Honor's new logo, where it resembles the iconic one from the mid-2000s to 2011. I mean, I would have never gotten that. I mean, I'm sure I've seen it, but I wasn't watching Ring of Honor at the time. I think it's cool. I think it's much better than the one that was leaked about a couple of months ago, I think, earlier this year. It looked like shit. Seeing it in person at the Death Before Dishonor show a few weeks ago in Lowell was really cool, and I think it's a good logo. His second question, though we're in the second half of the year, do you think FTR are the tag team of the year? I mean, you answered your own question there, but just reword your question, and your answer is FTR is indeed the tag team of the year. I'm not even really sure who else comes close. I know the Usos have been tag team champions all year, but that division is so fucking dead. And they've had some good matches. They kicked off the year with a great match with the New Day. They had a pretty good match on SmackDown with the Viking Raiders at one point. They've had a couple of great matches with the Profits and the Mysterios on Raw this week. The Usos have done, and the RK Bro matches as well were also very entertaining. The Usos they've had a very good year. I still think FTR is the hottest tag team of the year. I mean, specifically Dax Harwood and the singles matches he's had, they're just on another level. So the Usos would be a close second. I don't pay too much attention to New Japan. No tag team and Impact comes to mind, or Ring of Honor, or any other promotion. FTR are undoubtedly, in my opinion, number one. RK Bro would come close as well. They've had a great year too. And Alpha Academy, honorable mention. But overall, it's got to be FTR, for sure. His next question, have you noticed that Chris Hero / Cassius Ono has not competed in 2 years? Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a couple of months ago, I think he'd be the perfect fit for the Blackpool Combat Club, but I feel like if that was going to happen, it would have happened already. And Claudio's busy as Ring of Honor World Champion anyway. So I'm not even really sure that is going to happen. I think that'd be cool. I think he's just content working as a trainer or as a coach for Ring of Honor or AEW or whatever. I don't know if he's retired. I don't think he is retired. I feel like he would have said that or made that clear, but he's laid low for a very long time now since he got released from WWE 2.5 years ago. So I don't know what his next move is. I know he was working backstage, I think, at an Impact show or a Ring of Honor show not too long ago. I don't know. I would like to see Cassius Ohno back in the ring. I still think he has, he didn't look great in his last run with WWE, but he had some really fun matches in NXT UK. I would like to see him back for one more run somewhere. Where that is, I don't know. But even him and Claudio reuniting for one night only, I think would be pretty fucking cool. The NWO reviewer from Twitter, after Monday's Raw, Judgment Day is starting to feel more like Rhea Ripley's stable and not Finn Balor's. Agree or disagree? Agree. I mean, not even after Monday's Raw, but I mean, there was that segment, I think on Raw, right before Rhea got hurt, about a month and a half ago, where she was in the center while they were cutting a promo on the Titantron. I mean, that told me and everyone else that she was the real focal point of that group and not Finn Balor. And honestly, I have no issue with that. I love Finn Balor, but Finn Balor wasn't even someone I looked at as someone like, oh, this should be the next leader of this stable. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's done well in the role, but Rhea Ripley is just killing it right now and is the perfect person to be leading that group. Like I said earlier, it's almost a dead group at this point. I mean, it's hard to really care about Judgment Day with how many matches they've lost lately, but Rhea Ripley is just in her element as a heel right now. I think she's doing a great job. And honestly, making it Rhea's group and Finn Balor and Damian just doing her bidding, to me, just makes more sense. I liked when Edge led the group, but Rhea Ripley becoming like the leader of two guys that aren't scrubs. I mean, Finn Balor and Damian Priest are two top talents. Rhea Ripley kind of ordering them around to do whatever she wants is pretty fucking badass. So honestly, I have no issue with that. I'm all for it personally. At Reborn Again, John Ritland. He's got a couple of questions here. We'll start with his first one. I didn't organize the questions. I apologize. So they're all kind of out of order here. So I'll mention John now, then go back to him later. But his first question was, I know you were at SummerSlam and traveled back on Sunday, but did you get a chance to see Ric Flair's last match? If so, what were your thoughts? I don't think it'll come as a shock to you that I hated it. That's what he said. I did see it. I did not see it live. I did do a wrap-up roundtable type show with the folks over at Ad Free Shows on Monday. I retweeted the link on Tuesday, so I'll go back and check that out. It was a really fun time. Just talking about the event itself and the match and whatever. So in preparation for that roundtable, which I was going to watch the show anyway, but I kind of crammed to watch it on Monday. I watched the match itself. I assume you're talking about the match itself and not the show. Maybe you're talking about the show overall. I haven't watched all of the show. I watched the first 4 matches, not including the pre-show. I haven't seen that yet. I will watch everything because I just review everything. So at some point I will finish it and probably in the next day or two and put up my review of it at some point. My overall thoughts, the show itself, from what I've seen so far, was cool. I like all the interpromotional matches. Other the opener was really cool. The atmosphere was great. All the notable names they got to send in shout-outs and tributes to Flair. The people they had in the front row, like Taker and Foley, Bret Hart. Those are some big names right there. That was pretty fucking cool. Because Taker was there in Nashville for his one-man, dead man show on Friday anyway, which was great. I was there for that. The match itself, honestly, I thought it was exactly what it needed to be. It wasn't a disaster. I really thought it would be far worse than it was. I had no desire to fucking see it, pay to see it. The card underneath it was really what sold me on that show. I watched it. It dragged on for a little bit longer than it probably should have. But the crowd was very much behind Flair. I mean, the guy's a piece of shit from what I can gather. But listen, he is a legend in the business, and people want to get behind him for his last match, then whatever. And hopefully it gave him the closure that he was looking for, so he will never fucking wrestle again. Please. He looked like shit in there. I mean, the man's 73 years old. No real surprise. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I want to see another Ric Flair match. I didn't want to see the last fucking couple of Ric Flair matches. Even in TNA 10 years ago, he looked like shit. He really should have ended it, to no one's surprise, against Shawn at WrestleMania 24 back in 2008. He didn't. He ruined it. And now we had this one last match. I thought the vibe, again, of the arena was cool. They had Tony Schiavone on commentary and the old school referees and whatever. That was great. The match, they made the most of it. Lethal and Andrade did a majority of the work. But honestly, I thought the star of the match was Jeff Jarrett. And that's not a bold opinion, because I've seen a lot of other people say that, but he did an amazing job as the heel in that match, getting heat. And I mean, I really could not have given 2 shits about Jeff Jarrett even 2 or 3 years ago, but I mean, I interviewed him a couple months ago, very nice guy. As a talent, never really was a big Jeff Jarrett fan, but he's been all over the place in the last couple of months. I mean, he did the GCW stuff, which that was fucking dumb. The match with Effie sucked. But he showed up for this match, and he was at SummerSlam as well. He showed up for this match looking in great shape. And he did a fantastic job, even in Nashville, of turning the crowd against him. So I thought Jarrett was great. He sold well for Flair, who, again, looked like shit. But, I applaud him for at least getting through it. And most of all, not dying. Doing a dive would have been just embarrassing. So I'm glad Charlotte talked him out of it. But, I mean, if you're expecting me to go on a rant about it, there's really nothing for me to rant about. I mean, Flair did not need a last match like that. And they just had a million last matches. Good for him, I guess, to get that one last moment in the sun. Was it smart to even be out there at his age doing that shit? No. With a pacemaker in his chest, that's pretty stupid. But whatever. I thought, not even whatever. It's a pretty serious thing. But again, they made the most of it. And he did his thing, I guess. And people were behind it, and he won, and whatever. So it was far from pretty. It's not an instant classic by any means. But listen, he did a nice job, and for a 73-year-old in terrible fucking shape, I thought he was fine. It could have been, let's just put it this way, it could have been far worse. It could have been far worse than it was. At Boss Antelope 86, what are your thoughts on SummerSlam? I thought it was 50-50. I thought it was a great show. I'm biased because I was there, but the general vibe of people that I got from people that were there, and just people online, it was a very good show. And not just like, Triple H is in charge, anything he touches turns to gold. No, I thought what they did at the beginning and opening, or the beginning and ending of the show was fantastic. And everything else in the middle I thought was at least good. There really wasn't anything bad. I mean, Lashley in theory was like 4 minutes. Liv and Ronda was like 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. That was a very short match as well. But both matches were what they needed to be. Lashley in theory was kind of a pointless match. But Theory tapped out quickly because he wanted to save himself for the cash-in later on in the night. And then with Liv, I mean, she just got her ass kicked by Ronda, but she barely escaped with the championship by the skin of her teeth. So that was well done, too. I thought the tag team title match was solid, not nearly as good as the Money in the Bank match, but it was enjoyable. I'm trying to think what else was on the show. Corbin and McAfee was good. I thought Logan Paul and Miz was very entertaining. And, there were a couple other matches I'm not remembering right now. But, no, I thought it was a great show. I thought they, didn't go too long. It was about a 3.5-hour show. The crowd was into most of the stuff. There were some very good matches. And, it probably, as other people have said, one of the better SummerSlams I've seen in quite some time. It was a very good show, I thought. If you thought it was 50-50, that's fine, but I enjoyed it personally. At Jeremy8911, after his feud with Tony D ends, do you think Santos Escobar and the rest of Legado del Fantasma will be called up? I would be shocked if he's not. I mean, Triple H, if it was up to him a year or two ago, Santos would already be on Raw or SmackDown. Here's what I want them to fix going forward. We have this whole notion of like, oh, we're not going to hire indie people, which again, I kind of delve into with that article I did for Bleacher Report, the deep dive on the tryouts and the program and the recruitment strategy and whatever. They're not hiring any indie people. That's not, I don't think, going to really change that much with Triple H in charge. Triple H is the head of that fucking program. Maybe it was a Vince thing. Who knows? I mean, everyone wants to pin all the bad stuff on Vince, but honestly, it's probably part of Triple H's strategy as well. Truly, I didn't get a chance to speak to him about it, but it sounds like he had some input with it as well, and that's just where their mind is at this point. What I would do, though, going back to what I was going to say, what I would do, don't not hire indie people or established people, like if a Darby Allin, for example, which I don't think he's going to WWE, would he have to go through NXT? No. NXT at this point, to me, isn't going to be what it once was. Just bring whoever those hot new talents are to the main roster already. The whole point of NXT and bringing those people to NXT first was to kind of learn the WWE system and the cameras and whatever. I mean, I feel like Triple H, these people can learn on the fly on Raw or SmackDown. If we're talking established people that have already worked for top-tier promotions, already have a name and whatever, don't even bother going through NXT. I mean, for people that are a little lesser experienced, like a Roxy or a Cora Jade or whatever, Elena Black, I think her name was previously, then yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they're fucking 18, 19, 20 years old. For like a Santos who's almost, 34 or something? I mean, he's on the older side as far as they're concerned. He should already be on the main roster. It really is crazy that he's still there now. I mean, he should have been there years ago. So yes, to answer your question, I would wait for the Tony feud to end and then call him up with Legado, and they can add to that tag team division that desperately needs them. Back to John Retland, his second question. So Raw's ratings rose to the highest since the first pandemic edition of Raw. Granted, it's just one show, but the more wrestling-focused aspect was refreshing, was it not? Yeah, I agree. The rating was very encouraging to see. Will it stay that way? Will it be as high as it was on Monday? To be realistic, no, because I feel like we get these spikes once in a while, and it's no, they're going to do 2.5 million every week now that Triple H is in charge. They have to convince people to tune in every week. That's the thing. It's going to take a very long time to really wipe off that stench that the show is bad. And maybe it will continue to be bad. We don't know. One show was great. We don't know how it will be going forward. We really don't. So with that being said, I don't know, man. I just feel like it's one of those things where with the ratings, it's cool that it was high. I hope it can continue to maintain that momentum. I don't want to be negative. I'm just being realistic here. But yeah, for 1 week, I thought it was a great show. The emphasis on the in-ring action was great, but it can't be all about the in-ring action every single week. You got to develop stories. I said this in the tweet after Raw on Monday. If they can produce some better stories and reasons for me to tune in every week, then yeah, I'd be more inclined to watch every week live. I don't even watch live most times because I don't give a fuck about Raw, and I watch it to watch it because I have to, but I usually just catch up after the fact and watch it in 90 minutes as opposed to 3 hours because I cut through all the bullshit. Hopefully they can lessen the bullshit and they can get right to the meat and potatoes of it, and it's just a much more streamlined show as it was on Monday. So it's going to take time, I think, for people to really turn around on the product because a lot of people were burned. It's the same thing with TNA. A lot of people were burned out on the brand, on the initials, and just the mere mention of WWE or TNA just brings up a lot of negative connotations. And understandably so because they've been shit for so long, but Impact kind of wiped away that stench and they've been doing great work and still people won't give them a chance because TNA was bad so many years ago. Even though it's one of the best weekly products currently, in my opinion. Raw is the same thing. It's been bad for so long. I'm not saying it's the best weekly product. It's been 1 week. But it's going to take a while, I think, for really to condition people to give Raw a chance. It can't just be one good show and then it's back to being shit, because we've had that so often in the last couple of years. They'll have a good stretch of shows, and then it'll be right back to the status quo. I would like to think it'll be different. I think there's a chance for it to be different. I hope it will be. But we really don't know until we know. We have, only time will tell. John's next question, in regards to tonight's NXT, he's talking about Tuesday. In what universe does Von Wagner belong in the main event of any show? He doesn't. I haven't watched NXT yet, but I assume you're talking about the Falls Count Anywhere match between Solo and Wagner. I'm not sure what else would have main evented that show. I haven't seen NXT yet. I mean, Solo deserves to be in the main event, not Wagner, who's just abysmal and is still abysmal after. I mean, he's one of those guys they should just cut bait with. He is just not good. I talked to the guy in charge of the program at WWE for the recruitment talent. He was like, oh yeah, if they're not improving or they're not where we want them to be within 6 months to a year, we're going to get rid of them. Von Wagner, I'm sorry, don't want to see anyone out of a job. It should be in that category. He's just not good. I just don't see any value in Von Wagner. So, no, you're right. He should not be in the main event of a show, but hopefully it was a good match. I haven't seen it yet. At Ross Scott 1996, my buddy Ross's question was, how was the experience for SummerSlam live? It was great. For this one, I was in the press box for the fourth time. So I was at Mania and SummerSlam last year in the press box. Same thing for Mania this year. This was the first one where it was very close to the ring, but the windows were like completely closed. So it was tough hearing the crowd, but we had commentary on the TVs in the room. So I wasn't really listening to the crowd reactions in person because the windows were closed and we could barely hear anything. It was great to see it from the perspective that we did. But the show itself, I thought was great. Like I said earlier, even being there in person, you can have this general vibe going into it, coming out of it, that people were, for once, optimistic about the product. People weren't shitting on certain decisions being made, walking out of the show. I've had that so many fucking times. Not so much last year, because last year that was a pretty good SummerSlam. I'm talking 2015, 2016, with some of the dumb shit they did to close out those shows. People were just, this shit again, or like, that was fucking terrible. Like, why? We've had that so many times with SummerSlam specifically over the years, and I didn't get that vibe this year, which was great. So, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. All their pay-per-views this year have been pretty good, but I hope they can continue to do good work and continue to do, put on strong pay-per-views moving forward. At Boss Antelope 86 back to them, their question was, what wrestling deaths shocked you and hit you the most? Probably the Ultimate Warrior more than anyone else. And that's going to sound weird given what he was, guilty of and whatever. But, I wasn't honestly aware of that stuff when I first became a fan of his as a person, not really much of a talent. Much later on in his life, with the inspirational stuff and a lot of the stuff that he would do on YouTube. Not to say I was a fan of anything he did in the 2000s, if you know what I'm referencing. Not that I was even aware of it at that point. But yeah, I looked up to him in that regard as far as the inspirational stuff right before he passed, and it was the same weekend as Mania too when he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it was quite the whirlwind. That one really hit me hard. Beyond that one, I was bummed when Paul Bearer died. Mae Young was sad. I mean, she was really old. Roddy Piper too. Roddy Piper and Dusty Rhodes, just because they were still involved in the product before they passed. Piper was on not long before he passed away. Dusty was almost always on the show as part of NXT and shit like that. So, yeah, those hit me hard. In recent years, I can't think of many. I mean, there's a few people I've met, like Howard Finkel. That one sucked because I met him. He was a really nice guy. To hear that he passed was tough. I'm sure there's many more I'm not thinking of. Shad Gaspard was also really sad, too, just given the circumstances of the whole thing. But yeah, probably, it's going to sound weird, but like I said, Warrior would most likely be number one. At noob_n_co 1991, back to them, which WWE superstar pushes are going to end, and then that Triple H is in charge of creative. He listed Charlotte Flair, Theory, Bliss, Carmella, Natalya. I don't think Charlotte's push is going anywhere. I mean, Charlotte started in NXT before she was ever on the main roster. I don't think he'll put the belt on her a million times, I don't think, but, I don't think she's going to be going anywhere. I don't think she's going to be de-emphasized all that much. Theory, again, is an NXT Triple H guy. He hired him to NXT. Will he be world champion anytime soon? I hope not. Will he cash in successfully at some point? I think he will. Bliss, again, can she really go any lower than she has been lately? What push is she even getting currently? I'm not even really sure what you're talking about. Carmella, same thing, barely on the show. She was on the show for a month as part of the Bianca angle. She might get another chance with Triple H in charge, but she's kind of done all there is to do. And Natalya, Triple H likes Natalya. She's been a lot in NXT and whatever, but she fucking sucks. The only person I can really see being affected is like someone like Ezekiel or Elias. Again, I know an NXT person, but he was never really doing anything of note in NXT anyway. Elias did nothing in NXT. He actually did better on the main roster than he did in NXT. And the Ezekiel stuff was I've been enjoying it, but it's been one-dimensional for quite a while now, and the Kevin Owens feud didn't really have a proper conclusion. And it really didn't go anywhere, and we haven't seen him on Raw in a few weeks. So honestly, I would worry for him more than anyone else that you mentioned, because I feel like his push is completely dead. They might repackage him back into Elias or whatever, but the Ezekiel stuff I think might be already over. At Wheeljack83, Jeff's question was, do you think Triple H made a statement with this week's Raw? That was the talk, right? With the show on Monday going in, it's going to be a statement show. There weren't any major surprises. I mean, there weren't any major call-ups or anything like that, title changes. There didn't need to be, though, honestly. I think the biggest statement he sent, part of that show, was two things. One, the renewed focus on the United States Championship, which was very refreshing, and the renewed focus on the women's division, which has been one of the worst parts of that show for a while and has nothing to do with the talent. But, they were only really focusing on Bianca and Becky, and that was it. The Asuka stuff I really just didn't care for. It's going to take me a while to care about Asuka again, I think. But the whole Bayley stable thing really injects new life into that division, and now we have stuff to look forward to. And Becky being a babyface again is also very exciting as well, in my opinion. So I do think he made a statement with Monday's Raw. Things will not change overnight, but he's already done, in a very relatively short span of time, done a great job of sending the message that things will change slowly but surely, not immediately. And we've already seen signs of that change on the shows, which is good to see. The real test will be SmackDown, because SmackDown's been fucking terrible for like a year now. It was pretty good before the draft. The draft just ravaged that show, ravaged that roster, and it has not been the same since. So we'll see if he can turn SmackDown around. It might take a lot more than he did with Raw. And SmackDown's 2 hours, which is funny. It should be the better show, but I guess we'll find out Friday. At Justin David Kish from Twitter, his first question was, do you think that that AEW should rebrand as an AEW Dark Show to Ring of Honor until a TV deal is in place for ROH? I mean, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but it sounds like Tony Khan is waiting for a TV deal, and he won't do anything with Ring of Honor until then. I would further the Ring of Honor stuff on the Dark shows, yes. I mean, the Dark shows are a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same people. I mean, Brian Cage, we barely fucking see. I'd rather see him on a Dark Ring of Honor show than not at all. So you don't even have to call it Ring of Honor, but just further the Ring of Honor stuff on that show or on Rampage, which they've been doing lately, which is better than nothing, I guess. Because we don't know how long it's going to take before Ring of Honor gets a TV deal. It could be next week. It could be never. It could be in 6 months. We don't know. So that would at least keep them relevant in the meantime. His second question, with wrestlers' names likely not returning to their original, do you think at least the tag team names should return like War Raiders? That's a good question. Do I think they will? No. I think if they're established as a certain act, they'll just stay that way. I mean, the Viking Raiders have been the Viking Raiders for so long, they'll probably just stay the Viking Raiders. But, I mean, they were Viking Raiders in WWE far longer than they were the War Raiders in WWE. I mean, I would love to see it. Do I think they will? Probably not. But I'm not optimistic as far as that goes, but we'll see. At E13A, Emmanuel's first question was, have you heard about the Batgirl movie getting canceled? Apparently the movie was actually completed, but Warner Bros. New management deemed it not big enough. Yeah, that was the talk of Twitter last night. That's pretty bizarre. I know Michael Keaton was in it, renewing his role as Batman, reprising his role as Batman. I mean, that is just fucking weird. I mean, the movie was already wrapped and whatever. Just to cancel it was very bizarre to me. So, yeah. Not that I was going to go see it anyway. It just didn't really interest me personally. But that is pretty crazy, though. His second question, do you think Triple H will do anything with NXT UK? Maybe. I'm not going to say no. I'm not anticipating it. I feel like he has his hands full already with Raw and SmackDown, and to an extent NXT, maybe. He probably forgot NXT UK even existed. I think that's just going to stay on its own little island until it gets canceled or rebranded or whatever. They got to fix up that show. The show at this point is just so fucking boring. It's amazing how boring NXT UK has gone in the last year or so. And it's a shame because I used to really like the show and I still watch it to review it, but it's just not what it used to be. His third question, how do you feel about the pillars, quote unquote, of AEW in 2022? He's talking MJF, Jungle Boy, Sammy, and Darby Allin. It's honestly, I don't even really look at them as the pillars right now. Darby has never been less. He's still over, but he has done absolutely nothing this year. He's had not a good 2022. Sammy, I just really do not give a fuck about right now. He's had a very weird year. MJF was white hot before he took off, and then they took him off TV for 2 months. So we don't know when he'll be back. I assume that's by design. We'll see. And Jungle Boy's had a good year, and I think he will be a future star. He's done well. He cut a good promo a few weeks ago on the show. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next. But yeah, I feel like, honestly, I don't know about Daniel Garcia personally, but I feel like there's other pillars you could put in there at this point. I think there's a name I'm not really thinking of right now that would really come to mind. There was someone I was thinking like, oh, that's a much better fit at this point. I don't know. But anyway, the four pillars are weird. They're not really the pillars of 2022 of AEW in 2022. But, they all have potential. They're all stars and whatever, but I think AEW could be doing a better job with most of the people I just talked about. At Thomas_B96, the final question for the day. Have you thought about trying out for the WWE roster? What are your skills, if any? Have I? No. For the WWE roster, absolutely not. That is a good question, though. I have contemplated trying out a wrestling school for a day, not to do it full time or anything like that. That would be ridiculous as far as, if you take one look at me, you'll know exactly why I would never make it in the WWE or just wrestling in general. But just to give it a shot, just to take a bump, I'm sure I would get my fucking ass kicked in there. But I guess that's kind of on the bucket list, just to go to a wrestling school for a day and not get killed in there. But just run the ropes or take a bump or whatever and just see how it feels or how bad it feels or whatever, and just to say I did it. So that's probably the extent of it. I would never want to be a wrestler professionally. I would never want to try out for WWE. I was at the tryouts last week. It looked like fucking hell. Even they struggled, and they're all collegiate athletes. I am not. I used to play baseball. That's about it. And I did MMA for a very long time as well. I guess those are my skills. But my skills are really behind the keyboard, and not in a bad way as far as keyboard warrior. But, writing about it is my forte and not really doing it. So, and talking about it too, as we are today. But no, I would never try out for WWE as far as the in-ring portion goes. Maybe as a referee, maybe. Ring announcer, yeah. Commentator for sure. On-air personality, maybe. Manager, sure. In-ring athlete, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would get chopped in half in 2 seconds. But that's about it, guys, for episode 3. What is this, 52? 452? I don't even know. 453 of #AskGSM here today, for Wednesday, August 3rd, 2022. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show. I appreciate it. If you want to send in a question, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post they usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last, but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Like I said, a lot of random content coming soon. All the interviews I caught over SummerSlam weekend, almost 10 of them between Heyman. We got Dwight Howard. We got the man in charge of the new program, the recruitment strategy over at WWE, James Kimball. He was really cool. Some of the aspiring athletes that were signed by WWE, that was pretty sweet as well. We also spoke to Damian Priest, Ciampa, Jimmy Hart, and Bobby Lashley at the media junket on Friday morning. So, and Logan Paul, which went up on Monday. So a lot of interviews coming soon and other content that I just have to catch up on. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.